The story of Master Daochuo. Master Daochuo was a man of the Northern Qi dynasty, which flourished towards the end of the Northern and Southern dynasties. He was born in 562 in Jingyang, Bingzhou, to an ordinary family, surnamed Wei. Northern China at the time was divided between two political authorities, Northern Zhou and Northern Qi. They fought many wars. Daochuo's home was at the battlefront. The master had a precarious youth, spent amid natural disasters and man-made calamities, war, famine, pestilence. At 14, he felt deeply the fragility of life and the impermanence of worldly things. He resolved to become a monk and seek the truth. Having taken his vows, Daochuo studied the Nirvana Sutra. He gained an in-depth understanding of Buddhist principles. 24 times he expounded the Nirvana Sutra, in the process making a name for himself. Later, the master encountered a problem. All beings had Buddha nature, in theory, but achieving Buddhahood wasn't easy. Many conditions had to be met. Consider a seed. Without a favorable environment or the nurture of sunshine and rain, it would never grow into a large tree. And in his time, the world had entered the age of Dharma decline. Many monastics hankered after fame and fortune and wanted to be close to the rich and powerful. Spirituality was receding. Practicing in such an environment, how long would it take to achieve Buddhahood? Quietly, Daochuo left his original monastery to search for the right path. In the Hebei region, there was a sangha in the remote mountain forest, led by Chen Master Huizan. They maintained many of the finer traditions from the time of Shakyamuni Buddha, such as strict observance of precepts and the ways of itinerant monks. They were a breath of fresh air. His heart full of resolve, Daochuo arrived there. He began to practice Chen, hoping to realize the nature of emptiness. After 2 decades of diligent practice, he discovered the subtle profundity of the Chen path. It wasn't something that could be grasped by an ordinary being in the age of Dharma decline. Of Buddhism's 84,000 paths, which can be practiced and realized by an ordinary being? With that question in mind, 48-year-old Master Daochuo again set out in search of the way. This time, he went to Xuanzhong Monastery in Shibi, Shanxi Province. This was the Dharma Center that was home to Pure Land lineage Master Tanluan in the last stage of his life. The earlier master had passed away 69 years before. Inside the monastery was an inscription that recorded the life of Master Tanluan. After reading it, Daochuo seemed jolt awake and had mixed feelings. The Pure Land path that Tanluan taught, wasn't that what he was so painstakingly seeking? Standing before Tanluan's memorial pagoda, Daochuo vowed to become a disciple of the late master. Thenceforth, Master Daochuo stopped practicing according the sacred path. he turned heart and mind towards Pure Land, reciting Amitabha Buddha's name 70,000 times daily. The master inherited Tanluan's teaching. He discoursed on the Contemplation of Infinite Life Sutra more than 200 times and attracted many followers of the Pure Land path. Every time he finished speaking, the assembly would recite Amitabha's name. Their voice shook the mountains and valleys nearby. To facilitate practitioners' recitation, the master invented the bead counting method. With each recitation, the reciter would put a bead into a vessel as a tally. Later, he improved the method by using a string of beads, which we still employ today. Under the master's tutelage, everyone over the age 7 in the counties of Jinyang, Taiyuan, and Wenshui was familiar with Amitabha recitation. The sounds of recitation could be heard in the streets and alleyways. Master Daochuo wrote collection on the land of peace and joy in 2 scrolls. After Tanluan classified the Dharma into self-power and other power traditions, Daochuo divided it into the schools of the Sacred Path and the Pure Land Path. The Pure Land Path is guaranteed by the vows of Amitabha Buddha. All sentient beings, including grievous karmic offenders, can be reborn in the Pure Land via Buddha power so long as they make 10 recitations of Amitabha's name. There were those at the time who looked down on the Pure Land path. They thought being reborn in the Pure Land wasn't particularly impressive, and that we should imitate Bodhisattva Siddhagarbha and deliver beings in defiled realms. In response, the master used a metaphor. Non-retrogressive Bodhisattvas such as Siddhagarbha could not become defiled even in impure lands. He said, in that respect, they're like ducks and geese whose feathers remained dry even as they entered the water. However, ordinary beings in the age of Dharma decline would be corrupted by the 5 turbidities in defiled realms. Just as chickens become soaking wet in the water, people with erroneous views also wanted to slander the master, but they were subdued when they laid eyes on his compassionate face. By the Tang era, Master Daochuo's virtuous reputation had spread far and wide. As they passed Taiyuan, Emperor Taizong and Empress Wende called on him at Xuanzhong Monastery, making offerings. In his 68th year, the master had foreknowledge of his own passing. He told his disciples, and they gathered to bid him farewell. Several hundred followers assembled at the hillside. On the 8th day of the 4th lunar month, the assembly saw the late Master Tanluan arriving from the air by a 7-jeweled boat. He said to Master Daochuo, "Your Pure Land Hall in the Land of Bliss has been built, but there remains a task for you to complete in the Saha world." The assembly saw the transformation Buddha in the air and flowers falling from the sky. That strengthened the faith of many among them. What was the task requiring Daochuo to stay in the world? The mystery was revealed 12 years later, when a monk in his 20s came calling. The young monk was Master Shandao, who would later establish the Pure Land School. Hearing that Daochuo was teaching the Contemplation Sutra at Xuanzhong Monastery, he had come to learn. By then, Shandao had without supervision achieved samadhi by Amitabha visualization. It was the first and last time anyone had done that. A single glance told Master Daochuo, then aged 80, that Master Shandao was an extraordinary person. He knew that the Pure Land's teaching had a successor. Daochuo was both comforted and happy. Tanlan, Daochuo, and Shandao, in a little over a century, the three core Pure Land masters had completed the transmission of the lineage at Xuanzhong Monastery. They set the stage for the full flowering of the Pure Land school. 4 years later, having completed his mission, Master Daochuo passed away and was reborn in the Pure Land on the 27th day of the 4th lunar month. He was 84. Thank you. Namo Amitabha Buddha.